Hey everyone, Sam here, also known as Mr. Stainless, and today we're taking a look at a new article by Gamasutra where they go through some more in-depth details about State of Decay 2, from enemies to loot to places of interest on the map. But before we get into that, if you are new here to the channel and you want to be kept up to date with all of your State of Decay 2 news, please do hit the subscribe button down below. I upload 2 State of Decay videos every week for you. So if you're the kind of person who sees themselves playing through State of Decay 2 quite a few times, I think you'll find the information coming out of this article from Gamasutra the most helpful. A lot of the information that we'll be going through are primarily dealing with how items in the world are spawned and how that could impact the variety of each of your playthroughs. The first thing the article dived into was how loot spawns in the world, and for this they chatted to Brian, the game's systems designer. Also, Brian, if you're watching this, I know your last name was included in the article, but I have absolutely no idea how to pronounce it, sir. I am so sorry. I just didn't want to embarrass both of us. But for loot spawning, there are a few different systems that the game uses to populate throughout the map. Containers like boxes, shelves, cupboards, and things that loot can be contained in are placed by hand. And these kinds of items will remain persistent throughout the map no matter how many times you play the game. The loot inside them, however, that won't remain the same. Of course, some elements will stay consistent across every map whenever it comes to context. Brian gave the example that you'll always find at least one gas can at a gas station. In the same regard, we could likely assume that you'll always be guaranteed to find at least some form of medical supplies at a pharmacy or hospital, food at a grocery store, etc. Brian put it this way: site type guarantees are used to ensure we match player expectations when they go to loot sites that strongly telegraph certain kinds of loot. Construction sites will always have at least one rucksack of materials, and gas stations will always have at least one gas can item that can be used to refuel a car. This system allows us to precisely dictate what percentage of sites of a given user-facing type drop items of a certain type. Rather than use pure random odds, we use a deck of cards setup to ensure that, say, out of 10 restaurant sites, exactly 7 will have one rucksack of food, which 7 will be different every time the map is instantiated. But we can rely on 7 rucksacks of food being available to the player on each map, which helps enormously with long-term economy balance. Some items, however, won't be so guaranteed. For instance, vehicle spawns will be different each time you play. Equally, items will also have a degree of variety. Brian said it this way: say for example that across the whole map we want to drop, say, 25 normal melee weapons. These aren't guaranteed to show up in certain sites, but are instead distributed procedurally across all sites, into containers whitelisted to make sense, dropping items of certain implied physical sizes which makes sense for them. But what about multiplayer, and how does loot change there? Well, in multiplayer, additional loot is distributed in containers that aren't openable during your single player campaign. Equally, some of these containers will only be openable by your cooperative partners, who then have the choice of sharing the contents of that container, or, which will most likely happen with me and my friends, keeping it for themselves. What I like about this system is that it keeps the loot economy of your gameplay relatively intact. You can't have someone just jump into your game, take a ton of loot from the locations in your game, and then jump out, leaving you with less loot than you had before. It adds a level of balance to it all, to what Brian said as the economy of the world. So with all of this in mind, the article then moves on to enemies and how the undead populate the game world. So in State of Decay, the zombies aren't all persistent. What I mean by that is that there aren't a fixed number of zombies in the map, and they aren't all spawned in, so to speak, at once. Instead, zombies are only spawned in and simulated within a certain radius of the player. The only exception to this are the unique undead like juggernauts, ferals, things like that. Jason Heel, one of the gameplay engineers, said that the game remembers where you last met these types of zombies, so you can come back to them when you have more gear or better gear to finish them off. Now, I don't know if they mean that if you walk from one end of the street to the other, it'll still be there, or if you venture off and come back hours later, it'll still be there, who knows. Regardless though, it's still terrifying to know that that juggernaut is still going to be there when you thought it might have moved on. Heal also mentioned that the spawning of zombies does change in multiplayer. So if you and your buddies are travelling through the Undead wasteland looting houses, the game will do its best to ensure that all the zombies aren't spawning around one specific player and try to balance it out, which is, it's nice. One thing I did find really interesting though from what Heal said was how killing zombies in an area will affect the spawn rate of zombies in that area. Now it may sound like common sense, but this is what Heal had to say about it. We remember how many zombies you've killed, or if you've cleared a house nearby, and debit those kills from the available zombie population cap. Over time, this effect fades, so that if you kill a horde in a neighbourhood, you'll see a lot less zombies there for a while, but eventually new ones trickle in and the area becomes as dangerous as before. So if you spend time going through and meticulously clearing out house after house around your home base, you will see a reduction in the amount of undead in the area, for a time. The fact that you can almost buy yourself this reprieve is quite cool, and I know that I'll definitely appreciate it when I'm in-game and could use a little breather every now and again. But those are the main chunks of information that I got from the Gamasutra article. I'll try and remember to leave a link to the original article down in the video description for you all to check out, but in the meantime, as I said, if you want to be kept up to date with all of your State of Decay news, do be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. But until next time, have a great week folks, and I'll speak to you all soon.